Christian soldiers marching us to war with the cross of Jesus going on before. Christ the royal master, later grants the fall, forward into battle. See the banner go, see the banners go. Onward, Christian soldiers marching us to war with the cross of Jesus going on before. Hello, my friends and dear viewers. It must be obvious to you by now that the topic that we're going to talk about is the one that you can see on me. We're talking about war. War is painful to talk about, to think about, but it's a reality in our lives. We cannot live on planet Earth without it. Because if you look at the definition of war, you will begin to understand that it's part and parcel of human existence on planet Earth. So, let's better talk about it. And why did I hit the drum in the beginning? Because many wars have happened because there was no prior good communication. There was communication. Perhaps it was the wrong communication. Message was misunderstood. There was deception involved in it. Somebody had been deceived and people go to war and they look back afterwards and said, had I known. Yes, they look at the destruction and all the people that are dying and all the material loss that is taking place. What people have built all of their lives go into waste, into dust, into smoke, into ashes. And the cherished ones of our lives, they die in war, in battle. And we look back and we say, had we known. This is a subject that we must talk about. It's not just an exclusive topic to be discussed by men. Because the women give birth to the children, they nurture them, they raise them, and then suddenly they are destroyed. And the greatest destroyers are the men. I'm not bringing a war here between men and women. This is not about a sexist war, but I think we should up the game of communication, of good communication in society, because there are too many people whose hearts have been broken because of wars that could have been avoided. Now, the topic for today is war, origin, conduct, and how to prevent it. What is war? Let's begin by asking ourselves, what is war? In a very general sense of the word, in my own personal definition, I'm not reading from a dictionary, a war is a fight. It is a struggle. It's a confrontation between two forces. Confrontation between two forces to establish supremacy, control. It's a clash, a conflict between nations and groups. And then we have the open war. There is also a very subtle war. You've heard about in history about the Cold War. So war is part and parcel of our lives. Sometimes we're going through a war that has not even been openly declared, but a war is secretly going on and gnawing away the essence of humanity, which may only be found out too late. Now, in a more broad-based sense of trying to understand what war is really about, living on planet Earth is one long war made up of several battles, be they physical, mental, or spiritual. When we talk about war, the very first war, and this is a war that everybody experiences, is the war that takes place internally. It's a war against self. It is a perpetual war as long as we live on planet Earth. We're going to develop this. There is a war that is going on between individuals. There are economic wars that are going on as we see it in the markets, even in the world market. There are territorial wars. People are fighting over territory. So why is there war? War is existing because humans have the desire to dominate and control others. Wars take place because of our covetous nature. You know, in the 10 Commandments, it says, you shall not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor thy neighbor's house, nor his ass, nor his ox, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor anything that is thy neighbor, anybody at all. And nations covet nations. What do you have in your subsoil? What do you have in your country? We want it for ourselves. Wars take place because of the insatiable desire to possess material goods. You know how when humans begin to put material things way higher, they value it higher than other human beings? That is a cause for war. War takes place when the rights of people and their dignity are violated by those that are the powerful in society. You've heard about the caste system. Society gets to being organized with people at a higher level and other people at a lower level. You've heard about people living in societies where they were like second-class citizens. And you've heard about enslavement. You know, people get enslaved. Yes, even in this modern day. And you've heard about the differences in society where some people are the aristocrats, the bourgeoisie. These are the people that have been carved out from the political, socio-economic ranking in society. They are the ones that have been reading and trying to apply the literature of Niccolo Machiavelli. This is it. There is a war, and this is flat, basic reason of war. The war between the truth and lies. The war between what is genuine and what's counterfeit. So you begin to get an idea by now that deception goes into the causes and into the art of war. And people have written whole books about wars. Look at Sun Tzu in his book, The Art of War. And you imagine there are people who read these books instead of reading the books that will keep society in harmony. They read these books and they try to apply them. When they begin to look at other human beings as if they're just cockroaches, you know what I'm saying? Now, what is the origin of war? Some people may be learning this for the first time. The very first war took place in heaven. And we're going to find out. If you read the book of Revelations in chapter 12, you would find the very first war that took part. I don't know whether you want me to read it for you right now. I could, but you could also read it for yourself. But however, to establish the facts of everything that we'll be talking about, because the first war took place in heaven, and once you understand this, then you understand every other thing about why there is war and how you should be able to position yourself. Hear what Revelations chapter 12 verse 7 to 9 says. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And then, as we move further, let's just read a little thing here in verse 12. The second part of it says, "Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath," very, very angry, "because he knoweth that he had but a short time." This is it. Once you understand this, then everything becomes clear to you. So the idea and the presence of war even runs through the whole Bible. If you read it through, this life is a struggle. It's always going on. It's going on. It's going on. If it's not within, it is with somebody else in the external. And as you read through the Bible, especially in the book of the Kings, you would see how kings went to war. And the kings, there was always something. Any kings that went to war with the approval of God, they won. And guess what? It is the choir that was leading the army into war. You know what? Because Israel, the chosen people of God, those that were supposed to be models for the rest of the world, every one of their kings, maybe not Solomon, a few exceptions, but practically all of them have had to go to war. Why? Because there is this people called the Philistines that were targeting and attacking them at any one time of their lives. They never had a rest. You've heard about wars that came against Israel from the Assyrians and wars that came against them from the Babylonians. Because of all those reasons are already underlined. Even in battle, it was not just the kings. But let's say something about the kings though. You hear about Jehoshaphat. You will hear about Hezekiah. And you hear about David. David being the most outstanding. He won in so many battles from his childhood. You know, David and Goliath, a whole nation had been threatened by Goliath for 40 days and nobody was able to respond. 17-year-old boy withstood him and defeated him. Took him unawares. Now, even in the Bible, it's not just about the kings. Even some judges, typical Gideon, went to war. Gideon went to war. The people were in doubt. They were wondering even if, human beings, from time to time, they doubt even if God is still caring for them and all of that. And this man did. He went to war with a small army. You thinking war is just about men? There is a guy in the Bible called Barak. He had to go out to war on the orders of the Almighty. Go to war against these people. And he was so scared. And he told the prophetess, Deborah, if you don't come with me, I'm not going to go. And Deborah, prophetess, who used to judge the nation of Israel, had to go to war to bring along with Barak the courage that he really, really so lacked. Now we finished outlining the origin of war. In a sense, you can fill in the blanks here and there. Let's talk about the conduct of war. When you look at the international law, there are prescribed do's and don'ts about wars. Wars, when we talk about war, in this case, we're talking about armed conflicts. There are certain places that are no-go areas. For example, churches, hospitals, and there are some people that nobody should attack during war. In the category, humanitarian workers, there are children, and that's why people violate these laws. And that's why you hear of things like war criminals or war crimes that have been committed. In the Bible, in terms of conduct, the very first king of Israel was deposed because of a misconduct in war. He was called Saul, and Saul was immediately replaced by David, who was just a young guy at that time. As far as I'm concerned, in today's world, in our world, I would prefer that no war, never ever, should take place within or anywhere close to human habitation. Anyone who declares war should first of all look for a war zone where the war will be fought between the battling forces on both camps. This is the compassionate thing to do. If there must be war, stay away from human habitation and from where areas that innocent people and people who are not involved in war become casualties. Unfortunately, it's happening in our world. And now, let's come to the third part. How do we prevent war? In a general sense, war will never end. Yes, until the Lord Jesus comes, until the Lord Jesus returns upon this earth, war has come to stay with us. Why? Because the devil is with us here present, and there is that struggle. Do you think somebody who lost his place in heaven would want to let you go there? You see, all of the killings that are taking place is to be able to stop people from gaining citizenship into that new kingdom. Well, war may not come to an end, but we can do everything as members of the same society to put a check on armed conflicts. We can do it in particular territories because guess what? As long as people are benefiting from war, they want it to go on. We grew up hearing about wrestling or even witnessing it, and people showed their mettle and their physical strength. You know, some people became knights in some countries because they did heroic acts of courage and everything. Nowadays, people just hold their guns and they shoot another human being. This is so sad. It is really, really terrible. Especially when it has to do with somebody who was not armed. How about the women who are raped because of war? All kinds of terrible things that go on because of war. You know what? The fact that war isn't just physical, and the fact that war is not just about instant elimination, makes it clear to you and I that war is part of our lives. It will be difficult to completely wipe out war. Let's forget about that. Let's come to war in areas, in a way, in aspects that we normally don't consider as war. What do you eat? What do we drink? Haven't people had to eat something that was contaminated, was poisoned, knowingly or unknowingly? You know what? What type of work do you do? There are types of jobs that destroy you, take you out of focus, and you cannot be able to meet the purpose for which you were put upon this earth. You know, work can be so destructive. It can be so distracting. In what kind of environment are we living? These are all things. So now we begin to understand war is something that really damages the body. It can be over time. What kind of governments do we have in place? What is the setup? Is it something that is conducive to everyday work for people to be able to meet their goals in society? Or is it something that has a lot of obstacles built in it? Even those common things we call bottlenecks within administration, they are all aspects that damage the body. War is not just about killing somebody, shooting them, but anytime when we perform badly or when we do not allow people to attain the highest level, we are reducing the quality of our lives. Anytime they are reducing the quality of your life gradually, it's a form of murder. It's taking place on a daily basis. And now, how about the media? What kind of media are you, let's use the word consuming. What kind of media are you consuming? Above everything else, your health is a target. And you know what? The most ongoing, unbreakable, silent warfare that is going on has moved in a large part from a physical domain into the mind. It's taking place here in the mind. And this is the place that we must guard above everything else. Let's share some Bible verses, talking about war. I don't know whether I need to read this because I don't like to do long shows. War within the self. If you check out Galatians 5:17, it will tell you how the desires of the flesh, they are always in opposition to the desires of the spirit. When you read Matthew 10:28, all of us, God is telling us not to fear that which kills the body but cannot kill the soul. So fear is a factor that is used to bring people to subjection and to bring them to a position where they can't do much to prevent war or to be active on the right side of war. By now, you must have understood that there's something called a good fight. Those explosive wars and conflicts, they take place because people in a particular community did not fight the good fight. The majority of them were not involved in the good fight. What is the good fight? The Bible tells us in Romans 12:18 to be at peace with all people as far as this is possible with us. But some people have palaver in their blood. Romans 13 verse 1. You know that Bible verse that authorities like to quote this verse because it's suitable for them to tell you to subject to all powers that are there. I'm not going to read it. You can read it for yourself. Romans 13:1. But they always forget to remember that Ephesians 6:9 reminds everybody that is a higher person in society not to threaten, not to mistreat the people that are under them, because God is above everyone else, and that God is not partial. He's no respecter of persons. God He gives you all the chance to be as wonderful, as serviceable as you can be. But when it comes to judgment, it doesn't matter whether you're a king or a queen. So while we are saying, yes, we respect our leaders, God is telling our leaders, be careful how you treat the people who are under you, who are subject, your subordinates. The Bible cautions us not to put our trust in princes. Who are the princes? They are our leaders. We respect them, but don't trust them. They are just human beings like us. They go to sleep just like us. Some of them who are in power really want to do good for their people. But do you know what chains are holding them? Do you know what hammer is over their heads? When they go behind closed doors with people who are from other parts of the world, do you know what they are discussing? When they are signing signatures, do you know what they are signing out? How can we trust them? Let's love them, respect them, but we cannot put our trust in them. Now, we're told, what else are we told? God is a God that preserves, and that brings prosperity. If you read Psalms, one of my favorite Psalms, Psalms 144 verse 1, David is thanking God that teaches his hands to war and his fingers to fight. And 1 Peter 5:8 tells us we must be vigilant. But above everything else, we must have the right communication. We must be interested in our society. Let's not just live and assume that, you wake up in the morning, you go to school, they told you to do this. Be a part. We have to be a part of everything that is going on in our society to bring our own contribution. Because sometimes the people in power don't want us to be. But it doesn't even serve them also. God says he does not desire the death of a wicked man. So, if we are a sister, an aunt, a wife, a mother, a worker, we should be able also, ultimately, to think about the lives of the people that are above us. Who knows who shall bring the good news that will save somebody who is above us? We can't just be robotic in our service. We should rather put our trust in God. You know how Proverbs 3:5-6 says we should put our trust in God and acknowledge him in everything, and he shall direct our path. This is our own duty if we want to be on the safe side. And guess what? The Bible describes God in Psalm 24 as the Lord of hosts. The Lord of hosts is the owner of the army. Lift up your heads, O ye gates, be ye lifted up, O ye heavenly doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord. The Lord mighty in battles. Lord that is mighty in battle. And they ask the question again. He says he is the Lord of hosts. This is after Jesus returned from planet Earth. Psalm 24. And it's recorded there. And the gates of heaven were opening to receive him back after the victory. He is mighty in battle. God is God. Who can fight against God? You know what? If we are in war, whether there's an armed conflict going on or not, let's be on the good side of the battle. There is this story in when David had gone to war against the Philistines, and he defeated them, and they came on again on attack, and he consulted God. What did he say? 2 Samuel 5:22-24 says, when you shall hear a sound of a going in the tops of the mulberry tree, bestir thyself, for the Lord shall go out before you and deliver the Philistines into your hands. We are nothing. We are weak, but God is strong. If we have any power that comes against us, overwhelming, and we are in God's hands, we've given our lives to God, God is going to fight for us. Not meaning that we lay down. We're going to be there in the battlefield, but God would ensure that we have the victory. So now to conclude, the reason we are in war is because we have not known these things in advance. We were not living according to it. Too many of us are in slumber. We just sit there and think that everything will be served to us on a platter. Unfortunately. So, and even the Bible verses I've given you, they're just a tiny bit, not even up to 10% of all the Bible verses and passages that talk about war. And now, my final conclusion. The best way to prevent violent, destructive war is to be on the good side, to be on the side of saving lives. Let's not take anything in society for granted. We should be active participants in everything that is happening. You know how mothers take care of their babies? That's how we are to watch, because the Bible says we should be vigilant for our enemy, like a roaring lion. He is prowling about, looking for who next to devour. Anything that is good, the enemy wants to destroy it. Let's not fold our arms and say, oh, I'm a good person, nothing terrible is going to happen to me. No, we have to be vigilant. Really, 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 really. So, Ephesians 6 even tells us to put on the whole armor of God. I'll let you read that. What is the armor of God? We need to put this whole armor of God on a daily basis, because the ultimate reason for the attacks against people, even including the innocent ones, this is an eye-opener, is because, I said it before, somebody has lost their place in heaven. And will he want us to freely walk into it? I'm sure you know exactly what the answer is. So, may the Lord comfort all those who, all over the world, including my own country, have lost their loved ones in battle. Not property is sad enough, but people's lives, people have perished in battle lately. And it's not just the people who were carrying arms, it's even the innocent people, including children. Some of the pictures and the stories are so graphic that we can't even really, we don't even want to tarry on them. May the Lord comfort all of us and let us learn the lessons of war from this presentation. By God's grace, you have learned something that maybe you didn't know before, but we are each other's keepers in society. Indeed. And let nobody deceive you that you cannot be and shouldn't be or have your say or your contribution in life. Because even a daughter, even a wife can stop her husband from using that gun to kill some other child, to kill some other person's husband. May the Lord help us to be on the side of peace and to do what we can do, because we have seen what war can do, what it can deprive us of. A nation can be brought back 30 years back, 3 decades, 4 decades, 5 decades back in its development because of war. For how many years have children not put their foot in school? Oh God of mercy, have mercy upon us, O Lord. Forgive us our sins, Holy Father, that we may have that basic peace in which to bring back the pieces together. That you can look at us like the dry bones in Ezekiel 37